Hey everyone, I am Thomas, and this is Writtance, where we write whole worlds. Here's a fantasy short story about, well, a misunderstanding in war, where a couple of gilded anti-arcanists attempt to ambush Rageshian soldiers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the tale of Vanquished. Hold. Any minute now, the captain whispered, his voice muffled by his helmet. The squad held their position in the cramped space between two overhanging buildings as the battle raged on in the streets of Domur, a recently captured Rageshian city. The centurion in charge of this region had received intelligence revealing the enemy's movements, which involved disguising arcanists as field soldiers to overwhelm our defenses and reclaim their city. Rather than setting up a stronger perimeter, the centurion ordered us to intercept the arcanists when they appeared. This surprise would generate the momentum required for our forces to march on Dentuma and claim a vital cornerstone of their land. The 8 anti-arcanists sat in absolute silence, their eyes fixed on the ground as they lay in wait. The longer they sat there, the more the sounds of battle seemed to fade into the distance. The darkness of this cramped area was enhanced by the vibrant morning light bathing the streets in front, making it seem far out of reach. The sounds of their hearts beating soon overwhelmed any other, as the tips of their fingers began to tingle in anticipation. The Gilded were a prideful race, living for honor and glory. An opportunity like this does not come often. It was perfect. Almost too perfect. This chance could not be missed. They could not fail. Now! The captain shouted as he heard a sharp whistling noise, followed by a streak of light in the sky. Without missing a beat, the Gilded burst out of the alleyway, breaking down the thin barrier they had erected to hide behind. The central plaza of this coastal city showed signs of the skirmish that had taken place. The Valish presence here had been pushed back to this line, their defenses visibly weakened. This would be the ideal moment for the enemy to deploy their arcanists and capture the opening to reclaim their city. They rearranged their formation, pushing a line of soldiers forward who stretched out their arms without drawing their blades. It was at this exact moment that the Valish gave their sign. The anti-arcanist Gilded barged out of a nearby barricaded alleyway, perfectly predicting their enemy's location, and charged at the odd-looking soldiers. Within a matter of seconds, they had completely halted their advance, countering these supposed arcanists. But something was wrong. Wait, One of the Gilded managed to get out before a loud sound emerged from the advancing soldiers. The fake armor they were wearing was torn to shreds, as layers of explosives were detonated in tandem. The last thing the Gilded saw were the friendly faces of Valish prisoners of war, before the blasting force shot shards of metal straight through their armor. The captain who was in charge of this operation could only stare at this situation as he got up from his cover. Were we deceived? He muttered to himself in disbelief as he saw the remnants of his soldiers sprinkled out over the plaza. The enemy had miscalculated their explosives slightly, resulting in some damage on their side, but not enough to halt their advance. The moment the fake soldiers blew up, they immediately resumed their assault. Before the Valish could comprehend what had just happened, the sound of another explosion rang heavy through the air, but this one came from behind them. A column of fire rose up to the sky above the cityscape, in the direction of the main camp. The Gilded captain's face suddenly contorted as he let out a horrible laugh. Of course, why wouldn't they? So that's where the arcanists went. His eyes turned a dull grey as he began walking out of his hiding spot, into the plaza where the enemy soldiers were flooding in. He loosely gripped his blade and drew it as he stepped out, still laughing to himself. He slowly walked towards the enemy. Hey, you forgot me, he said in between his fits of laughter, trying to assume his stance. Come on, man, fight me! Cowards! he said, swinging his blade in the air, his sides hurting from laughter. His vision shifted to white as the enemy soldier withdrew their blade from the captain, dyeing the ground red. He opened his mouth to get a final word out, but was thrown aside by the soldier, who resumed their charge. The war between the Valish and Ragesians has lasted for thousands of years. Peace negotiations had failed, and any time either side came close to winning, the other came upon some form of information or strategy that flipped the tide around. It was almost like the world itself kept the conflict going, but that's not possible, is it? And that's it. This is one heck of an old story, and I'm really just uploading it for the sake of a sense of completion of sorts. The entire point of this conflict was to point out the Valish had been betrayed by defectors and never even got to see the Ragesians, who would show up a few hours later, yet I somehow never even mentioned that in this story. Like the video and subscribe for more fantasy short stories, world building, and other things in that kind of corner. Take care and see you next time. Bye bye.